Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thinkfuture. My name's Chris Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep, deep, deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking AI, innovation, startups, humanity, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. Why did innovation come back? I don't know. Maybe it will be here. Maybe it won't be here. It's show number 999, folks. That's right. It is the last three-digit show of the Thinkfuture podcast. And some of the changes are coming soon. Who knows when they'll be back? Maybe they'll be back the following Monday. Who knows? We'll see when show 1000 hits if the changes will come at once or they'll come dribs and drabs. Who knows? But speaking of change, let's talk a little bit about change. Let's talk a little about human change, because a lot of people, if you ask me, are unhappy with some aspect of their life. There's some aspect of their life. Now, nobody is 100% happy about everything, right? No one. I mean, do you know anyone who's 100% happy about everything? I don't think so. Are you 100% happy about everything? Are you? So all of us have some aspect of ourselves which we're not 100% happy about. And we want to change. We want to change this aspect of ourselves. And some of us have more than a single aspect that we want to change. We have a lot of aspects we want to change. But let's think about change in general. And I've talked before about change at length and how change is so incredibly difficult for human beings. And I think maybe I'm starting to realize that the biggest reason why change might be so difficult is not because it's difficult for us personally. I think change might not actually be all that difficult for us personally as human beings if we are the only ones that are affected by this change. And I've mentioned before about how when you're a human being in this society, in the civilization that we're in, we are in a web of social connections. We are not just who we are because we are who we are. We are who we are because of the way other people know us to be. And when we're attempting to change something about ourselves, we may be able to personally reconcile this change within ourselves. We may be able to, and I've said this before, is that we literally can, if we wanted to, wake up tomorrow morning and be a completely different person. We can act differently, we can walk differently, we can talk differently, we can do all sorts of things differently simply by deciding to do it. And this is where a lot of people were talking about free will and determinism on X the other day, and some people are like, no, you have no free will whatsoever, and others are like, oh, it's all free will. But I think it's a little bit of both. And I think a lot of the free will comes from within, because we personally can, if we want to, if we wish to, make the decision to make whatever change in our lives that we want to. There's nothing, literally nothing stopping us from us making an internalized change to ourselves to be a different person, to actually implement the change that we're talking about. So these changes that I was talking about earlier, whatever it might be, we might decide to change to be a vegan. Let's say that. Let's use that as an example. Let's say one day we wake up and we say to ourselves, oh God, that giant steak dinner I had yesterday was just didn't sit well. I didn't sleep very well. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a vegan. I've decided I'm going to become a vegan. Now, if you live on your own in the middle of nowhere with no human beings around you and no friends around you, no human connections, no social web, you can become a vegan like that. There is nothing stopping you from becoming a vegan. You've decided to become a vegan, and you become a vegan. You start eating vegetables, you don't eat any animal products whatsoever, and boom, you are done. But none of us are like that. None of us live on our own in the middle of nowhere with no social network, no web of connections. None of us. We all live within social webs. We all live within relationships with other human beings. And those relationships with other human beings, in those relationships, they see us in a certain way. And when these people see us in a certain way, and we try to break out of that, if we try to act or be or change ourselves to be a different person, then we get a lot of friction against these other individuals, because these individuals see us as what we were. So we can freely decide to be different people, and there's where the free will comes in. But the determinism comes in when we realize we're jammed in this social web, and not just a social web, a environmental web. Everything around us keeps us the same way. So this individual who woke up in the morning and decided they wanted to be a vegan, don't they have a spouse in bed with them who might go, "What do you mean a vegan? You love barbecue. Why would you be a vegan?" Or a son or a father who would be like, "How could you be a vegan? You're like this, you're like that, you're like this kind of person." The person we know is not a vegan. And not only are you fighting your internal system saying, "Oh, I love meat. Meat really appeals to me." You're also fighting your entire social web around you who's saying, "Chris isn't a vegan. He loves meat. How can he be a vegan? There's no possible way he can be a vegan. He's really trying to be a vegan? Come on. Come on." So where does the determinism come from? The determinism comes from your environment. You can change your mind and freely will yourself to do whatever you want. Change yourself to be a completely different person. But then once you realize you are jammed in this environment, this network of other human beings who are expecting you to be how you were, then it becomes almost impossible to be able to change. And, that, along with all sorts of other things, says that not only are we driven by free will, but we're also driven by determinism. And, of course, some people on the determinism side of things saying, well, we're always going to be in a social network, we're always going to be in a social web, and we're always going to be expected to act a certain way. So why would we want to... So we're going to act a certain way because we are going to go along to get along. We're going to stay friends with all these people. We're going to continue to maintain our social web because they say that's the kind of person that we are. Now, I disagree with that. I think we can change. It just takes a lot longer than you think, right? Remember we talked about at the beginning of the week about overestimating? If you think it's going to take you a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10 years to change, it's probably going to take a lot longer than that. Because not only are you battling your own internal free will change, you're also battling the rest of the world that expects you to be the same. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.